Welcome to the Oh So Spurs podcast. It is take 1961 in 1882. We have the full crew back to go over your questions and tell you why Spurs are going to finish where they're going to finish, potentially, and why this thing is going to happen in the Super Cup that you have to wait to halfway through to find out.
Of course.
And we disable mid-roll ads. So when you watch Oh So Spurs, you don't get any of those adverts in the middle when you're on YouTube.
None of that.
None of that. We took a 40% revenue hit for that because we
For
love
you.
you. For you. Because we love you. So when you're on another pod and it goes to a mid-roll break, just switch over here and you won't get any of them. Enjoyable viewer experience. But to talk about it all with us today, with the wonderful Stu in Dubai. How are you, Stu?
Thank you very much. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, thanks. I'm doing good. I'm a 10 away from perfect. Deej, how are you?
I'm doing great. I'm obviously away right now, so I had to do a makeshift backdrop, but hopefully this will do for this episode. Sorry for audio listeners.
Look, you're today what took Stu 2 years to get to. So done a good job. We have
Mine's
Si.
fine. Thank you very much.
Si's ever evaporating background. How are you, Si?
It is evaporated, but I've got some shelf side there, some shelf side gnomes just lined up there. You were complaining that I didn't have anything on show, so I got the boys out. They were over on the filing cabinet and they're down there now. Yeah, doing all right in hot and sultry Basel at the moment. We're up to 35 degrees with no aircon. So that's a laugh and a half.
It is hot and salty, isn't it? Is
Can I
it
just
hot?
say, you might want to clarify for the audio visitors that when he says he's got the boys out, he's not talking about the boys being out.
Oh, yeah, just to clarify, he's got two big gnomes out.
I'm known for big gnomes.
Yeah, we'll leave that to your imagination. And we have live from the Tottenham Hotspur History Museum, as you can see, Johnny.
Curator.
Prime exhibit at the front and the centre here. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Is it hot and sweaty in Dublin, Johnny?
It's pretty warm today, actually, in fairness. It's sort of, a little bit of a shower, but it's pretty warm. But
and your gnome's all right?
I've got.
He's got one in the back there.
Yeah, I can see it.
One gnome. My gnomes that were put outside just fell apart. I think Si's got the right idea. So that's where the shelf. I like this the idea.
So
of
the shelf side,
because we're both shelf side boys too. So
there you go.
Idea. Yeah,
and I'm really excited. 1 week to our first game. 5 days. 5 days.
Indeed.
I sorted my travel plans today. Very excited. Got approval from the wife. Right. But anyway, let's jump into questions. We've had some great ones. I'm just going to start in no particular order and run it down. And if you're listening and you don't like any of the questions, tough, because we didn't vet them before they came in. So we're just going to read them all out. So first one is from Roston. He says, haven't been able to check in for ages because of holidays and a new job. Congrats on a new job, Roston. One question I always come back to is why football fans freak out as often as they do. Basically, what I mean is, why do some fans lean into the narrative or hype and feed into with reactions, even though common sense and it's cool? I think you're saying what's with the sense of everything going around Spurs at the moment. Anyone want to raise their hand and take it? What's driving this?
I'll cop in if you've
Go on,
got
Johnny.
half an hour.
You didn't raise the hand, but I'll take it. Go on, mate.
Okay, I totally identify with what Rustin has just said, and I'll be honest, like the boys in the panel already know, I have not been handling this whole sort of narrative very well the last 2 or 3 weeks, and I've been really struggling, to be honest, with what I perceive to be negativity. It could be my individual headspace, but at the end of the day, I guess the summer is so long. I suppose the whole Morgan Gibbs White thing, that was a great disappointment and everything else. When we thought we were sort of taking on the world and we were being like a real club and all of that kind of thing. And listen, I've got my season ticket. I'll be hopping to nearly every game. Unfortunately, I'm at Oasis. Well, not unfortunately. I'm at Oasis on Saturday.
You're going to Oasis?
I'll miss the Burnley game, unfortunately, yeah. But I'll still be investing all the effort and everything it takes to go and all that. But where I am at the moment is football is supposed to be fun. We're supposed to be enjoying ourselves, and it's totally the prerogative of anyone who has the investment that they have to get as worked up or as excited or as worried or whatever it happens to be. It's completely up to them, and I respect that. But I don't really want to be around the kind of noise where people are making up their minds before. And I posted on a group earlier the way people were talking about Sarr only a couple of months ago, and he was basically showing the door kind of thing. And now he's one of the players over the last few games.
Someone suggested loading him out, Johnny. Some crazy guy.
Okay, well, there you go.
Podcast,
for me, I never understood why he was like people were in such a hurry to get rid of him, and I suppose you don't get on the hype train so quickly either. It's like it's all maybe a bit boring and a bit old for me to sort of say, but I just think like we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what's going to happen with the Savinho thing. I don't think anybody knew much about that yesterday. There's all this talk about again about Eze today. Again, no idea how like literal that could be. But I think we just have to wait until Wednesday, and wait until Saturday, and just take each week as it comes. Fair enough with people. Like I get why people are disappointed because there maybe not been as many incomings as we expected. Like that's completely fair enough. But just sort of deciding that. It's just it's really monotonous narrative of this person's not doing their job properly, that person's not doing their job properly, this manager's being left out to dry. Even there was something I was on X there while you boys were waffling 10 minutes ago before we went on air.
What?
For once, I decided to like
do Petal Black there, Johnny.
Talking of
waffle.
waffle.
I don't need to listen
waffle.
to you guys waffle. I wrote the book.
Deej and Si have got their hands up too, Johnny. We've got 45 minutes left. So go on, mate. Get to your point.
I'll wrap. Well, I'm kind of trying to make my point as I go along. On X/Twitter, there's within a 10-second scroll, there's a video of Ange sitting at like a beautiful table on holiday somewhere having someone slicing this sort of beautiful cut of brisket or something. And it's going on about like he's been paid all this money by Levy to have the crack, basically. And then there's another thing about Thomas Frank, and there's a quote attributed to Ange, we're going to win something this season, which he did. And then Thomas Frank says, we're going to sort of try our hardest, words to that effect. I said, look at what's become of the club. Okay, fair enough. You can say that. You can take the time to post that. I can't be bothered with that. I'm just going to watch the game, see what happens, and come on here, talk to you guys. And maybe my head will be in a different place in a few weeks' time. But I think we need to get behind the manager, get behind the players. I think we've got a lot of good players, and I think we just need to just chill. Because we could be Villa. Villa has done nothing. Look at their transfer this week. Absolutely. It's zero. Prima. I think they signed one guy I've never heard of. He might be amazing. Right, end of. Go.
Well, much sentiment there, I agree with. Deej, you were next in the order of hand raising. Go on, mate.
Yes, we're very excited that our podcasting software has finally allowed for us to not just say every time we want to make a point. Anyway, I think I agree with most of what Johnny was saying. I do think that there are a couple things that are kind of exacerbating this issue. Well, actually, I had one side point before. Jim, every player that you suggest selling or loaning out immediately becomes good. So I think you need to just say we need to sell the whole squad. And then we're winning the lot. Because I remember it was last season with Kulusevski before he got injured. He was our best player. And then this season it's Sarr, and he's been probably our best player in the preseason, which doesn't say a whole lot, but I'm using it to spin a narrative. And yeah, I think you need to become a bigger hater so that our players can get better.
Because they listen, right? Listen to the show.
Obviously. But anyway, I think that it's one, if we hadn't lost 4-0 to Bayern, I think that we're not as worried. Even if it was 2-0, I think we're not in the space we are right now. But I think that there is, for as much as I am not on board with the total negativity, and saying that we're gonna crash and burn and whatever, because I know we'll still sign new players. I think that Savinho is a very exciting link that we are getting because City bought Marmoush in the summer, or in January basically, and now don't have the time to start him every game, and he wants guaranteed playing time that we can provide, and City cannot. I think that, but I do think that it's still fair. And also, this is the problem kind of with social media, is that if you say something negative, you get lumped in with, I hate everything about the club. If you say something positive, you're lumped in with, I would shine Levy's bald head 3 times a day because I just love him that much. And I think 99% of us fall somewhere in the middle of those two extremes. But I think that our squad is has the potential to be really good, but I think that the Maddison injury threw a massive spanner in the works for how we can play. And I think it is a little bit disappointing that we haven't brought a 10 in yet, because even if we bring one in at this point, it'll take time for him to get used to the system, get used to the players, because especially a creative player, there's a huge advantage to having a rapport with the other attacking players you play with, and you can't really make that by anything but taking time to play with them, which is why I think that is disappointing to me. But I do think that overall we'll be fine. We'll sign a 10. I just wish it was earlier, and I think that is feeding into the negativity, and I think that people are kind of taking that and running to an illogical extreme. in my opinion.
Wise words, Deej. Wise words. Si, you are next. To finish off this question, then we'll go on to the next one. Go on, Si.
Yeah, I think all of that is true, and I think to DJ's point, that the Maddison injury is really, if he was fit now, I don't think we'd be having as many of these conversations as what we are. If we just had to carry Decky being unfit until, say, October time, I think it'd be a different conversation. I think we also, not just us as Spurs fans, but in life at the moment, there seems to be that we feel that there's an entitlement that we should know everything about everything. And if we're not getting told everything about everything, then nothing's happening. Well, we've learned over the last year and a half or so that Langer does a lot of stuff under the radar. We hear about stuff quite a lot of the time when it's done. And I'm sure that there's stuff going on in the background. I'm sure that, Frank's comments about the way that we operate is different to Brentford. Of course it is. But at Brentford, they'd been working together for years. Frank would identify one or two players and they could go out, get the business done because they're shopping in different shops to what we are as well. Maybe it's not as complicated to get some of those players over the line into Brentford to entice them into the Premier League at an entry-level club like Brentford. And he's got to learn, he's at a new company, basically. He's working with new staff. He's in a new environment. He's trying to learn how things get done as the company is with him. There's all of that to work through as well. So I'm sure stuff's going on in the background. I'm sure that there's activity going on in the background. We just don't know about it. And do you know what? Back in the day, before any sort of internet, you just used to get the paper in the morning. And if it was on the back page, then you knew about it. If it wasn't on the back page, you didn't know about it. There was no way of finding out.
It was fun having the build-up and then the climax of, we didn't sign anyone, or, oh my word, we're signing this player. You know what I mean? It was.
I just think it's people get too hooked up. There's too much drama.
Yeah. Next question, guys. I think we'll pass.
CFAX, teletext.
CFAX, it was class. I used to follow the cricket on there as well. Before we alienate our 5% of viewers that sit below the age of 30, we're talking about CFAX. I want to ask Stu the next question.
I was about to leave. I don't know what we're talking about.
Okay, so you've got two questions for everyone. Who's looking forward to the return of the Premier League on Saturday? Sean, I think we all are.
Yeah,
we'll give you a collective yes. Hope you are too, mate. And if you're coming down from Scotland, it'll be good to see you. God, what a name. What player are you most looking forward to seeing next season, Stu? Who fills you with the most hope and excitement?
Mine is Odegaard. I was quite excited when we signed him, and he got injured obviously quite early. And he's looked pretty good in preseason. Frank has spoken glowingly about him. I'm pretty excited to see what he's gonna bring. I mean, we all like that kind of dribbly winger who'll try and take a player on, and I think we'll have that. So it'll be nice to have Kudus on the right doing that, him on the left doing that. Then we don't know if we might or might not sign someone else. I'm sure we'll talk about later. But it'll just be exciting to have some, people running at the defenses and hopefully seeing them running backwards rather than, us last season being cut to pieces by opposition wingers.
So Odegaard for Stu. Next, I'm going to kind of whiz through these a bit because we've got about 30 odd questions on all the channels, so we need to get through them quite fast. And this is on Discord, by the way. If you want to join in and ask us questions, I will post the Discord link into the bottom of the chat on YouTube and on the audio podcast as well. The WhatsApp one's just a bit full, but if you remember, you do get access to the WhatsApp one. So this is from Sean Hurl. Again, will we regret not retaining some of the loan players we've sent out? Have we loaned out too many? You want to take that one? Do you want to skip? No, just gentle shakes of the head.
I think that everyone, I've said this in the Discord before when we talked about this, but I think that at this point, everyone in the past, I think, I'd say 5-ish years ago, we had a massive issue with our club not sending players out on enough loans. And I think that of the two options, I think this is the better way of going about things. I think that the loans we've found for most of the players have been better than the quality of loans in the past. And I think that at this point, I think that the club and the training staff, I trust that they could make a judgment on whether or not they believe a player is ready for serious Premier League minutes. And if they're not, I think that it's best for them to go out on loan and kind of build their way up to being ready for that.
Stu, you had a point to add on this?
Yeah, I think, we've seen in the past with Skip, with Kyle Walker-Peters, that young, promising players stagnate if they don't get minutes. So as DJ says, they've got to get out. They've got to be playing, week in, week out against men's football. The only thing I'd like to hear your views on it is, I saw a link today with Vuskovic going to Hamburg. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I would have preferred he stayed in country and got homegrown status at least.
He's European, so it's The homegrown status thing that was the issue with Sarr was for the Premier League only, which I don't think we have issue with.
Yeah, but that's because Sarr went on loan. But if we kept
but Sarr's issue was on loan because he was not an EU citizen, and that was for the Premier League specifically.
If you look at the regulations, it doesn't specify that at all.
The same thing happened with Saliba at Arsenal, because he went on loan to France 3 times from his ages 18 to 21, and he still counts as homegrown in the Premier League and as club trained
and in Champions League.
Yeah. So I would assume that something similar would happen there. I went and checked at their Champions League registration from last season, and he was listed as a club trained player.
Because
I don't know how that works, but he is.
If you read the regulations, it specifies they have to be there from the beginning to the end.
Yes,
otherwise they don't count.
I think that the way that they got around that was by registering them to the U21 team, which still counts, or the under 21s. Sorry.
Well, we'll use the comments to validate this. Deej and Stu will find the answer.
I don't know how Arsenal, what the black magic they use, but I would assume that now that we've seen that, I would assume that we would be doing something similar. Yeah,
it's one that's where every episode we learn 10% more about the inner workings of these deals and get 10% more lost at the same time. So it's forever. Feels like a moving object we're getting closer to. This is from James. What are your realistic and achievable expectations for the season, and how many more signings will Spurs make? You want to take that one? I think it should be pretty similar answer across the room.
Yeah, I mean, I think this one we can just all kind of rapid fire answers. I think achievable goal is to finish in the European places, and I think we will make 2 or 3 more signings depending on outgoings. I think at least 2, 3 depending on player sales.
Johnny, what would you say? You'd be like, yeah, I'm content, and also you think it's realistic.
I think it depends obviously what happens in the next couple of weeks. But if we can get Savinha in and a good 10, then I would think that what Deej has just outlined would definitely be realistic. It's not going to be easy, but looking at other teams, it's a really interesting league. And you're looking at this supercomputer that always pops up at the start of every season with its predictions. Man United and Tottenham were predicted to finish kind of in the top 6 or whatever last year, and we all know what happened then. And then suddenly, we're predicted to be finishing 14th because we had a 17th place finish last year. I mean, there's just the likes of the Forests and the Bournemouths and the Brightons and Brentfords and teams like that who they don't have. No disrespect, but they don't have the sort of scale of the name. I mean, Palace looked really good, I thought, yesterday in the Community Shield. So there's a real strength and depth, isn't there? So there's a lot of unknowns. There's definitely, as the years go on, I think fewer, more straightforward games, and there's very few straightforward games now. So, but I do think that with the squad that we have, if we can get those 2 positions, I'd like to think we'd definitely
European spots as well.
Yeah, European spots, and I know it's going back to, do you remember the year when we didn't want? Well, I certainly didn't want to finish in the Conference League places, and it was either we finish in the Europa League or 8th or whatever it was. I kind of feel the same with the Conference League. I just can't stand the Conference League. It's such a waste of time. It's just not good for a squad. But
it's not. But I'd take it. If we were in it, I'd want to win it, and I would still lord it over Arsenal as another European trophy they don't have.
Yeah, it's just no fun until you get to the quarterfinals, though, is it?
Yeah. Yeah. If you're in it, you may as well try win it. That's my view. But great.
Of course. Yeah.
For sure, but I think the expectation needs to be minimum Europa.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
That's the expectation. If you fall into the conference and that's your booby prize, then okay. But we've got to be minimum Europa.
That's fair. Yeah. Because
whether we do it or not is another question, depending on the signings that come in. I don't think it's going to be easy. But then we've got some clubs above us that are not going to find it easy either. We've talked about Villa, Newcastle. No one wants to go to Newcastle from the looks of it. And, they got a good starting 11, but paper-thin squad. Villa, I don't know what their wage bill to turnover is at the moment, but I'm guessing they're going to be really close to falling foul of the UEFA rules again. So that's why they're not signing people. Forest, they're going to be stretched. They're going to be having the games. Palace are going to be stretched. There's going to be a lot of teams that were above us last season that are going to find it a lot more difficult. I think, top to break into that top 4 is going to be a massive challenge. And I think that's probably beyond us for this year. But again, depending on the signings.
Stu, what do you think? Where and how many signings? I think it's, without the ifs and buts, where do you think we'll finish? And how many signings do you think we'll make?
Where do I think we'll finish based on the signings I think we'll make?
I guess
no ifs and buts, Stu. No ifs and buts.
You think we're going to sign... You think we're going to sign, say, 1 player, and you think as a result we're going to finish where?
I am going to hope that we sign at least 2, one being a 10. If we don't sign a 10, we're in a whole world of trouble. But I'm going to presume that we do sign those 2. And if we do, I think top 6 is possible. I think top 4 is still too far.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's really expecting top. Well, maybe some people are. And if you are, hopefully you're going, haha, can't believe you guys all thought Europa League was the goal when we finished in the top 4. But yeah, I agree. I think clubs like Newcastle and Villa, they have areas in their squad which need bulking up and improving like ours. But when you start looking at City, Liverpool and Arsenal and Chelsea even, they look just that year further ahead in the transfer market. Well, so Liverpool 3 years ahead of everyone else, but their squads look very well rounded, very complete, at the peak of their powers. It's probably not realistic to go for those spots yet. MJ Botspur, do you think Tottenham aren't looking at a left back because there isn't great for players available, because there's not many around basically at the moment? And do you think Van de Ven will get time at left back?
I actually saw something related to this, that Fabrizio Romano reported that we were trying to go for Coney de Winter, who I think is a sort of center back, right back hybrid. I think he ended up going to Milan, but I think that that's interesting because it does kind of imply that we might be looking, it suggests that maybe we're looking more for a right back and trying to move Spence as a full-time left back, because I do think Spence plays well at the left back position as well. And then in terms of like why we don't have any concrete links for either, my guess would be that we don't have anyone who we think fits the profile of player that we want there. And if we do find someone, I would expect it to move quickly, like all of our transfers seem to do under Lange. And I do think that that's another thing to add on to the why we're getting wound up, is because we don't have transfer links. We just have transfer signings. And we're so used to the Paratici, like, oh, we might sign every player in world football next week, and then we don't sign any of them. But we're like used to like using that as like a barometer for whether or not we're doing something. And because we don't have that, it's hard for us to trust that it's happening, especially because Lange hasn't been here long enough yet, I think, to gain the trust of the fan base.
Do you know what it's like? It's like waking up in the morning and just being like, I hope I've got a girlfriend tomorrow. But there's no dates in between. There's nothing. You just wake up and there's one there, or there's just one isn't. Lange you're just there or you're not. They're just there or they're not. You don't get, there's no dinners, there's no gamesmanship, there's no courting. They just turn up on the day.
Married.
They just sign.
Did your wife watch this podcast?
They're just there holding, I don't know. She definitely doesn't. Maybe she does. That was a really crap analogy. Let's swiftly move on to see what we got from Knowsley, MF Knowsley. I hope that's right. Do we think our interest in Savinho means Kudus will be moved centrally, or are we signing him? Hands, boys. Remember to use the hands. Or are we signing him? Did he just raise his hand? More coverage for the wings now that Sonny is left.
I think that if you look at our squad right now, there's still definitely a sun-shaped hole in it that to answer the question, I think that it is, Savinho will be playing primarily on the left. I think Kudus will probably be playing primarily on the right. I think we also have 4 competitions we're playing in. So we'll have lots of players playing all those positions, hopefully, because especially like winger is one of the more, I would say, physically taxing positions because of all of the space you have to cover. So I would like to have lots of depth. We remember what happened last season when we were forced to play Timo Werner. Nobody wants that again. Sorry, Timo. But like, I think that Savinho, the only thing it suggests to me is maybe Kudus goes centrally. Maybe we think about using Odegaard as a backup 10 as well, because I know he's played centrally before as well. And maybe we're thinking about playing, some comments that Frank has made has suggested he might see Tell as more of a center forward than a left wing long term. So I think that it provides flexibility for us to have, so we can try things like moving Kudus centrally. We can try things like using Odegaard centrally, and we're not forced into doing anything. So we can let Frank use the players that he likes, because apparently this is a player that Savinho apparently is one that he seems to like, which obviously I don't know. I don't talk to Frank. So you're just going to have to take my word for it based on what Fabrizio Romano said.
Well, so I does. In his double gang of life.
That's true. That's true. So I'll turn it over to you. What has Frank been saying?
Well, we had a chat today, and he didn't say much. But I think that you've sort of like you've started unraveling something there, Deej. Where I think, could Odegaard even play on the right? Because he did play on the right for a bit last season. You might even see Kudus coming into the middle, Tell, Savinho if we get him on the left, and Johnson and Odegaard on the right, and using Kudus as that cover in the 10. you could see that, and I could see that working. Although Odegaard will come in a little bit more, you could play Savinho going outside on the left with Odegaard cutting in a little bit more from the right, maybe. And I think he maybe sees Kudus as a solution to that 10. I think he played there a couple of times for West Ham last season, and Savinho certainly preferred it on the left. He played on the left in Spain a lot, didn't he, when he was out there? So I think that's where his number one position will be if we land it. I mean, the noise is that we're talking, but Man City don't particularly want to sell, but we know what Pep's view of players who want to go is, then they can go, right?
Well, guys, the problem I have with the next 10 questions is they're all about our balance on the wings, which I think we've pretty much answered. It's largely Savinho's a young left winger, Tell's a young left winger, and Odegaard's a young left winger. What's going on? And Johnny flagged this earlier in the chat. It was like, another one? Why we got another one? But I think is also mentioned in that chat by Chris in here. They are versatile. Savinho can play either side. Odegaard can play as a 10 or on the wing. Tell supposedly, by Frank's word, seems to be considered more of a backup striker. So anyway, it looks like those players are largely fluid. And I think I'd look at it more as having 6 players for 3 positions that are kind of going to float around and play in each other's
more
areas.
Thing to add on that is when we were talking about this backup 10, I do think I would be shocked and a little bit appalled if we did not sign a 10. I think everyone is kind of in agreement that that's where we are as a squad. But I've seen suggestions that we need to sign 2. And I think by signing a player like Savinho, I think that opens us up, that allows us to have the coverage that we need until Kulusevski returns, until Maddison returns later in the season, where we'll have players who will be able to play that position without having to kind of essentially force somebody out of the squad for a few months because of injury.
I would agree with that, because I think the only reason it would make sense is because as just we had said, Odegaard could play in the middle, because otherwise you're going to have 3 21 or under players all playing on the left wing, and that doesn't make any sense. And then you have to start questioning, why did we sign Tell if we're going to buy Savinho? So I think at least this way, if we only bring in 110, Odegaard or Tell, whoever, gets to play in the middle and gets game time as well. Because I think we do need to make sure that all these players that we've made promises to do get game time. And then hopefully,
I think that's a bit what's causing the noise at the moment as well. Is we're talking about the players, Bergvall, Gray, Odegaard, Tell, Savinho if he comes in, great potential, and maybe Bergvall and Gray have got more than potential after last season when they were chucked in. But there's still a huge amount of unknowns there, right? We haven't really bought Paulinho in. Okay, that gives you a bit of stability and a bit of experience on that number 6. And whether people think that that's a signing that sets the world alight or not, it's a signing that does a massive job for us in that position. And with Maddison and Decky being out, you've lost a huge amount of experience there. I wonder if Paulinho coming in frees up Bentancur a little bit to be a bit more of a presence in that midfield as well, because I think there's a fantastic player in there that we just haven't seen for a year and a half since the injury, really. He had the injury, he came into Ange's team when he hadn't played in that setup and he struggled to find his way a little bit. Then he had the 7-match suspension the season after. It's all been a bit start-stop with him, and I think there's an incredible player in there somewhere, and I just think we just got to find a way to get it out of him, and he could be something a bit special for us, I think.
I do find there's lots of... I understand, I think what you said is right, so particularly about with young players, the challenge is there's so much uncertainty that people don't know what they're committing to. But I'd also say there's been a mentality shift this window from just I've noticed in general, that is, what we need, because we went so aggressive on youth before, is ready now players, ready now players, ready now players. And I keep going, when on earth have Spurs ever been successful at doing that? We've never had a history of, in the last 30 years, being better by doing that. And every time we've tried it, it's gone catastrophically wrong. And all our success has come from that, the most successful era was the Poch era, came from buying young players. The only one I can think of is Van der Vaart, who came in, maybe Scott Parker.
Yeah.
There's a few, but there's never been Spurs who've gone, right, ripping up the rule book, I'm whacking £100 million down for... And also, even if we did, if I said Spurs, I'm Daniel Levy, and I said Langer or Frank, I'm giving you £200 million for a single player of your choice and 400 grand a week. I don't think we could attract a single player of that value, even if we offered all that money. Because if they're that good, they're at Real Madrid, they're at PSG, they're at Liverpool, they're at Man City. I'm sorry, we have to disrupt it different ways than do. I just don't understand what.
I agree.
I just don't think it's doable. And in the same way, we would laugh our heads off if Forest whacked £100 million down on Romero in front of us. We'd be like, "Who do you think you are, you little scamps? Get out of here!" And we'd kick him away.
The proof is that if we could, we'd have bought Rodrigo, but he doesn't want to come to us.
He was waiting for Madrid at City.
Exactly.
He was waiting for City.
Exactly.
Jolly, go on after you, mate.
I mean, it kind of follows from what you were saying there about buying experienced players. I mean, no one's mentioned the name Dominic Solanke, and I understand why that's the case, okay? But well, this time last year, we were obviously his name would have been mentioned a lot more, but we didn't know what was going to happen. A lot of people, including lads Frank that I sit beside, you sit through those games, and I just hear this muttering under his breath. Useless he is that every time he gets near the ball. I don't subscribe to that point of view, but I mean, ultimately a striker is there to score goals. He hasn't produced that end result really, and anything like what we would have hoped for. He's definitely not a Roberto Soldado disaster level, or what was it, Vincent Janssen kind of. No, he's not, Stu, because he makes a big difference in the other areas outside of his primary responsibility. But the reason I'm mentioning him is because I just think I hope again maybe it's me just being naive, but when you're talking about again making decisions and just writing people off, I mean, this time last year we did actually spend an awful lot of money certainly by our standards on him. He was a player with the England senior cap. He is fair to have that ambition. I think he's shown in Bournemouth, and I know that it's a different setup and a different system, different players around him, but he was capable of scoring a lot of different types of goals. So I just think whenever you asked the question earlier, saying which player are you looking forward to the most, I kind of nearly stuck my hand up at that point to somewhat facetiously say Solanke, but only with a grain of facete, is that whatever the word is? There you go. Put your answers in the postcard and let me know. I was sort of thinking about, well, if we have these dynamic wingers and we've got somebody who has produced the goods in terms of goal output in the buff, why can't Solanke actually prove something that he didn't prove last year? I think we're all a bit too quick to just completely rule him out. I think we saw a lot of quality from him last year. He did undoubtedly fluff his lines quite a few times. I mean, as always the case with a striker, it is all about confidence. When you get on that run, like we saw it with Richarlison a few times. Richarlison's had one amazing spell, didn't he? About 10 games in a row. I think it was the season 4 last around the season. Yeah. And it was like, oh my God, and then we're seeing why kind of Tottenham would have thought about spending what they spent on him. And I really hope that people maybe we'll actually remember that we have signed a 60+ million English striker, and he can, because I'm not willing to just sort of cast him aside and think we're talking about Tell as being our centre forward or Richarlison when he's not injured. And I know that that's not exactly what people are saying here, but I think just to put a bit of respect on him, because I think he just needs to be remembered. And I'm sure that Frank is, open to that, because he's going to be want to use any tools that he has at his disposal to make the best outcome for Tottenham.
Well, I was going to chuck my 2 cents in, but Deej has been itching to get his word in here. Go on,
I was just going to say that I think it's it's hard to judge basically anybody, I think, off of last season, just because of there was no squad consistency. Like, I think if you were to say, which players do you think performed well last season? I think that like a good 70% of Spurs fans would say something along the lines of nobody or X showed promise, which doesn't mean they played well all the time. It means that they were young and they did better than we expected. So, like, I think it's hard to say, like I understand that there are reservations about Solanke in terms of his like history of goal scoring output, but there's also, he's had a weird path to getting to where he is today as well. It's been a bit circuitous to get to the top level, and I think that he deserves the benefit of the doubt of getting a season under a more, hopefully a more like structured starting 11, a more set system that will hopefully get better out of our players, because I think last season we just never had any sort of coherence as a squad. A lot of that was down to injury, but it made it so that no one could really stand out in a way that mattered. The biggest concern I have with him is if he'll be able to start the season healthy and maintain the health, because once bitten, twice shy. but Tottenham's not even once bitten. Like, I don't know, 8,000 times bitten, 8,001 times shy with injuries, and they scare me still.
The thing is, like, I think Solanke is a prime example of what we can attract, and it is the better players from clubs that, we have double the revenues of, or even, just the clout over because they're not in that big six bracket and they might need to be a bit up against the wall and need to raise funds or whatever it is. We can do that. And I think that's been pushed into this narrative that we only look for opportunistic signings. Well, I think sometimes you do need to take opportunistic signings because otherwise those clubs won't sell their players. They don't need to sell. We've said this before. Bournemouth with a 12,000 seater stadium can go knock on the door of a massive club like Porto and take their best striker for £50 million. The days are gone where Spurs can go, I've got 30 million, I'll have your best player, please. They'll just laugh us out the room. They don't need the money. They don't need it. They're fine. So it is harder. You have to have players who are willing to push for the move to you. And often players, if they're truly outstanding, they'll go, again, I'm going to wait for Liverpool, City, whoever else it is, PSG, until that opportunity comes up. Thank you very much. Or I'm going to run down my contract and get a much bigger wage when that comes up. So when you get a Solanke, I think you need a mix of those senior players. You have to have some. But if Solanke gets to 15 to 20 goals in a season, brilliant. That's what we paid the money for. That certainty and consistency, you can get there. And I agree with what you guys both said. Last season was such an out-of-sorts season. You can't judge many players in our squad to say that was them at their best. They were running on fumes most of that season to try and just get over the line each 90 minutes.
Yeah, and all this isn't to say that quickly, I think that he's not he's a long-term solution. We should guarantee he's going to score 30 goals this season. I just think we need to give him another one.
So you were next, and it's over to Johnny.
I think, now that we've started talking about that centre-forward sort of space, I think that we're still left wanting there a little bit. I don't think you can trust Richarlison to stay fit for the whole season. And if you're just relying on Solanke again, and we're saying, Tells may not be really a centre-forward, I think, if we could strengthen there as well, then, that could be one of the 3 or 4 areas that would be a real benefit for us to get a top quality backup striker in to cover for him, because I just don't see. Richie's not really done it for me. Full stop. I've shared my views on here, and I really don't. I wish him well, and I think he's a lovely bloke, but he's just never done it for me, and I just can't see him staying fit, and I can't see him being that second striker for us.
Johnny?
No, just to hop in, I agree with what Sign and Deej have just said. In terms of Solanke again, and it sort of goes back to the waffle that I was coming out with in the very beginning of the pod. It's just like, when we're talking about making judgments on players, there are so many examples, including at Tottenham, where players have been indifferent at best at the beginning and haven't made an impact and have been disappointing. We've just said goodbye to, certainly in the Premier League era, maybe our certainly most loved player. Famously, Sonny had a really poor first season. He scored 4 goals. I know he's not a striker, right, but he's somebody who eventually went on to win the Golden Boot. Now, I'm not saying that Solanke and Son are on a parallel or on an even playing field, but when he came in, 2015, I remember the last game of the season that he was garbage, like most people were that year. Whenever we lost, we got bumped at St James's Park, was dying. I said, we need to get rid of this guy. And thank God no one was listening to me, because but it's reported that Sonny said to Poch, I want to go because I'm not getting enough game time, because he didn't settle into the Premier League. Okay, Solanke's been a Premier League player for a long, since Bournemouth got promoted, and obviously had his spell at Liverpool or whatever before that. At the end of the day, I just think even with Kane was pure garbage. I'm sorry, he was garbage. I remember when Gareth Bale went to Madrid, and I don't know whether it was immediately after, it was a bit after, and Kane was starting to score a few goals. He was saying, whenever Bale was signed for all of that money, he was saying, oh, well, it's an inspiration for me. I really want to be one day, in sort of to aspire to that sort of height and to become a great player. And I remember, absolutely, excuse the French, but I pissed myself laughing in my front room with my eldest, thinking, are you for real? I've seen you playing in pre-season games and you couldn't hit a barn door. Absolute joke. And clearly I knew nothing about football when I said that as well. So we just, and maybe that's still the case, I'm sure it is, but I just think there's players. Okay, he's 27 now.
Almost 28.
Fair enough. Well, okay, but he's 27 now, and whenever he's 28, he's not as young as Sonny was then. Sonny was like 23, 24, 23 when he joined, 24 or whatever when he was at that point in his career. So it's not like massively down. I know there are differences in circumstances, but players struggle and players come on and players have ebbs and flows. And I honestly think, especially with a striker, that confidence is key. We've got a new manager, we've got new players, we've got a new system. It's a little bit of a tangent to be talking so much about Solanke, but I'm fixating on this because I think he demonstrates why we just at least need to be open to it, and maybe nothing will happen, and he'll end up in the sort of Soldado or Janssen kind of scrap heap. But I don't think he's there anyway because I think he brings a lot of other stuff to his game. But I just let's see what the manager can do with the players.
Yeah, and I'm going to pass it to Stu now to finish this off, and then we'll wrap up. But remember what we brought in Frank, supposedly here to improve and coach these players, and at senior and at youth level. We know that a lot of players are better than they showed last season. But Stu, over to you, mate.
No, I was just going to say that, I think it's a bit of a false comparison comparing Solanke when he joined us to Kane when he first came through at 22 and Sonny when he was 22, 23 coming to the country as a new man who doesn't speak English, new environment, to an Englishman who had less of a difference. I mean, he was almost 27 when he joined us. So I think it's slightly different to youngsters. We can disagree, Johnny, but I think it's slightly different.
I think it's interesting.
And Solanke's had one season where he scored double figures in the Premier League. One. So that's my only fear, that the Premier League has a long history of one season wonders, and I'm just scared that he might be our one season wonder. I'm hoping that Frank's proven track record with forward players means that isn't going to happen. I also think that last season Solanke did do a lot of running, which others benefit from. Johnson in particular benefited from the decoy runs that Solanke was doing. So, I'm not writing him off. I think he definitely deserves another chance, and I think potentially he could come through. I just am worried that he might not be the $65 million striker. That's all.
Fair enough. Well, we're only one more.
I don't think he's played when he was at Bournemouth. How many seasons did he have in the Premier League before he came to Tottenham? Was it 2?
No, he's only had two, and he had 2 at Liverpool. Yeah. So he's had 4 seasons in the Premier League.
Yeah, but how many games? He played 21 games for Liverpool in all competitions.
No, he scored 3 and 32 in the Premier League in his second season for Liverpool. 0 and 10, 6 and 33 the season before, scored 19 and 38.
Right, fact checking is going on, guys. Fact checking is going on
here. That's not what Wikipedia says, but
I'm looking at Wikipedia right now.
Well, I'm looking at Wikipedia right now, and it says he had 21 appearances for Liverpool and scored 1 goal.
So I've got Wikipedia in front of me. It says season 2019,
he was at Bournemouth at the time. And that season.
Yeah, he was playing for Bournemouth then. 2019
Bournemouth, 2024. According to this Wikipedia, it says 2021 he's in the Championship, 21-22 he was in the Championship.
So he scored 20 in the Championship he scored 15 then 30 then 27 and then 20.
Yeah, in 2019-2020 he was still at Bournemouth.
Oh, he scored 16 for us last season.
2019-2020, according to this, he was at Liverpool.
He scored 16 for us last season. That's not actually that bad,
And he also scored 9 goals last year, 27 appearances in the league, which,
that's single fingers.
It's not that bad, to be honest with you.
No, it's not. 16 goals isn't. Not many players get over 20 in a season. What do we have last year?
But just as a comparison, Richie managed to score 11 goals in a season, and people are saying he's not good enough.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, he transferred to Bournemouth in the 18-19 season.
Well,
in
guys,
January of 2019.
It's funny how
we're going to find out next season. I'm going to play. We should play a game here. Right, Johnny, how many goals is Solanke going to score next season? You can set a bet for Stu. If he scores over how many, Stu has to buy you a Chick King. This is season 2 of Brennan Johnson, Jim versus HG. It's Johnny versus Stu in the Great Solanke. So, Johnny, what would you take, Stu? Go on, Johnny.
All comps or Premier?
Just Premier.
Premier.
Go Premier. I'm going to say he betters last season and he gets 10 then.
Even I think he'll better last season. It's hardly pushing the boat out.
It's an opening gambit, bro.
That's true.
This is a Chick King at stake here. I think I'm gonna be brave and say 15, and I think that's probably like.
I think he can get 15. I think he can get up to 15.
So you're not taking the bet?
No, I think he can get up to 15.
Johnny, can you go to 16? Okay. We've got to have this bet.
I have faith in Frank.
Okay. if he gets 15, then nobody buys anyone a Chit King.
15's the break-even point. If you get 16,
15's
Johnny
break
wins.
even. 16, my Chit King. 14, it's Stu's. Okay.
Yeah. I
That's
think
fair.
that's fair, guys. I think that's fair.
Okay, fine.
I think that's fair.
That'll have them coming back. All the viewers
If you
will be
want, you
setting
could
their
go
alarm clocks
30
for
goal
me.
contributions across all competitions as an alternative. Assists and
Okay,
goals.
Grant. No, that's all going to be Sabinia, isn't it?
All right, well, there you have it, guys. I guess we just finished with a up the Spurs.
Hang on, are we going to predict
quick
Super
predictions?
Cup?
I'm 3 minutes late, but let's do quick predictions. Super Cup.
I think
Deej,
both teams will have fun.
both teams have fun.
Football will be the winner.
You did yours last night, so I know it. Was it last night? No, you didn't do it. You didn't join us Sunday. No, you didn't.
No, I didn't.
So-
I'm not going to predict a loss as much as I think we will lose. So I'll say we win 2-1, and I think we win off of the worst goal you've ever seen. I'm not going to even say who scores it.
Cool. So very positive way of worst goal ever, and we're going to lose from Deej.
I said worst goal ever, and we win.
We win. Okay. So
It's different.
fair.
That's the least positive I can be on a prediction on this
We're
channel.
going to score. It'll be the worst goal ever, and then we're going to lose. So
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go down the same route as Deej. I can't have a recording where I predict a massive loss. I think it's going to be an incredibly tough game. Obviously, I think we might scrape a draw and win on penalties. 1-1, 1-1, and then 3-2 on penalties.
Johnny,
I was going to say exactly the same. Only I'm going to go with 2-2, and we win on penalties. Yeah, and we're going to be flawless in penalties. It'll be going to be 5-4.
Wow.
Stu.
We're going to lose 2-0.
Right. I'm going to go for 3-1 to Spurs. Richie opening the scoring with double header with Desmond. Brendan Johnson tripping over himself and heading in the second. And capping it off with a Pedro Porro screamer. There you go. It's in the stars. It's in the stars.
There we go.
That's it. And I'll have I need to get the League Cup replica, Johnny, as do you, because we've witnessed that in our lifetime and we haven't got the replica for that. And then get the Super Cup on order as well. And we've got Deej's twin brother just joined.
Nice.
But up the Spurs.
Go on, you Spurs.
Go on, you Spurs.
Yes.